Hello and welcome to Point of View, the show that decodes the region and beyond. I am Wasbir Hussain. Three top non-Western leaders, Xi Jinping of China, Narendra Modi of India, and Vladimir Putin of Russia, locked in warm handshakes, hugs, and camaraderie rarely seen. Does it mean the actual beginning of a new global security and economic order that prioritizes the global South and poses a direct challenge to the hegemony of the United States? This is the big question. There are differences between and among the Troika, but as Xi Jinping said, differences should not escalate to disputes. With this philosophy and approach, it is now clear that a Russia-India-China axis is emerging, threatening to pose a stiff challenge to the policies of America's maverick President Donald Trump. Skeptics may say that the three men standing shoulder to shoulder, laughing and surrounded by translators could be choreographed or improvised. But does it really matter? The message that has gone out from Tianjin is that America cannot pressurize India, Russia, or China into submission by imposing tariffs and putting pressure. The big question now is, will the India-China border dispute going to be pushed to the back burner while other issues of cooperation takes precedence? Can China be trusted? Will China revise its relations with India's neighbors like Pakistan, for instance? And finally, will there be a long-term thaw in India-China ties as Xi Jinping is reported to be hoping for? To discuss this and more, I am joined by an esteemed panel tonight. I am joined by Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia, Distinguished Fellow at the Gateway House. He's joining me from Noida. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former Director General Infantry, is joining me from New Delhi. Group Captain Mohanto Panging is joining me from Pasighat, and Dr. Srikant Kondappalli, Professor of China Studies at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, is joining from New Delhi. Gentlemen, welcome to Point of View. My first question to Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia. Ambassador, some skeptics are saying that the three men, Vladimir Putin, Narendra Modi, and Xi Jinping, holding hands, warm handshakes, smile, and clasped hands could be choreographed or improvised. But does it really matter? What is the message from Tianjin according to you?
Thank you very much, Wasbir. Congratulations on conceiving this wonderful program at a very appropriate time.
Thank you.
The answer to your question has to be direct. What is the message from Tianjin? The message is significant, and that message needs to be decoded collectively, and I think that is what we will try to attempt. My view, based on long diplomatic experience and working in the think tank domain, is that we have to avoid two extremist views on this. One extreme is that a new troika has been formed, and it essentially, from Tianjin, was saying, "Hello, Trump," as the headline of the Indian Express depicted. On the other hand, there is another view which says that nothing much has happened. There's no great consequential thing. I would like to take the middle of the road view and say that something of significance has indeed happened in the Tianjin, but it is not the formation of a new axis or a new alliance. First of all, there were not just these three leaders. There were about 17 other leaders. It was a SCO gathering. It was not the gathering of India, Russia, and China only. Second, the focus very much was on the Eurasian region with Central Asia as its core. And yet, I think we have to remember that this particular summit was taking place in the backdrop of the US president's approach to international affairs, which obviously has caused a lot of complications, above all for India, and certainly for other countries as well. So in very brief terms, the message from Tianjin is that Asian powers are slowly coming together. Two of them have always been very close, Russia and China. And on the other hand, India and Russia are time-tested friends. But in this triangle, India and China also are now coming closer, exactly as we had predicted at your program last time. It is a normalization which comes with limitations. It is not a full-blooded, genuine heart-to-heart normalization, but it's a reset which has gained momentum.
Okay.
So I think we should take it seriously without either overestimating its significance or underestimating its importance.
Absolutely. Dr. Srikant Kandapalli, Ambassador Bhatia has taken a pragmatic but very cautious step. He has taken a middle path, as he has himself said. What are your thoughts? Is an axis RIC, is it really emerging, or is it too early to say? Can we really trust China? What is going on?
Three things are evident. One is the Prime Minister's meeting with President Xi Jinping for 50 minutes. The second is Prime Minister's statement to the SEO Heads of States Summit level meeting. That is on September 1st. And then there is the declaration, joint statement from the SEO outcome. So when we analyze these three things, we see that at the bilateral level, we still have a lot of differences with China. Prime Minister mentioned about the need for mutual trust, respect and sincerity, sensitivity to each other. So that indicates actually there is no trust, or there are problems with trust levels. So it is a clear indication that there are differences. The Prime Minister, in both the meetings with President Xi Jinping, as well as in terms of the SEO intervention that he made yesterday, in this he mentioned about the problems related to sovereignty of India, where he did not refer to exactly what is this, but since the Prime Minister had attended the Qingdao meeting earlier in 2018, he said connectivity and sovereignty issues need to be factored in. And if you don't do that, then the trust levels and meaning of the relations is problematic. So basically, to decode this, we have to see that the CPEC projects are violating the Indian sovereignty. Basically, the instrument of accession that the Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir signed in 1947.
Yeah.
And today, China is building roads through the Xinjiang and Kashmir, Pakistan-occupied Kashmir regions. So this is violative of the SEO charter itself. So Prime Minister was mentioning about the violation of sovereignty, which is actually core principle of the SEO. Second, he mentioned about terrorism and double speak related to terrorism. I think that was also very crucial because the SEO declaration time and again mentions about countering terrorism in all forms. But when we look at the Pahalgam, which of course has been mentioned in the joint statement, when you look at the Pahalgam, one of the terrorists was using the messaging services of Huawei, a Chinese company, and also interlinked to the satellite systems.
Right.
That is the Chinese Peito system. So this indicated to the Chinese role in the Pahalgam incident, according to the reports. Now, if this is established, then there will be a problem in terms of the member states of the SEO. At least 2 member states are involved in this incident. So it indicates then to the dilution of the SEO charter and ultimately the legitimacy of the SEO itself. Because if there is double speak on this issue, then the SEO, if it stands for these issues,
Professor,
it cannot have
Right.
stood for those.
Right.
So in the discussions, we find this anomaly, public announcements and the bilateral meetings and the multilateral. So on your question of trust, I think we need to wait for a while to look at.
Okay.
Prime Minister mentioned about
Okay.
disengagement process, but there is no de-escalation process.
Okay, we'll stop at this from Dr. Kondapalli and take this discussion forward. I'll come back to you. Let me turn to Lieutenant General Kulkarni. Now, you see, as a military man, General Kulkarni, are you prepared to trust China? Because at the end of the day, we are talking about whether there is an emergence of a Russia, India, China axis. But at the end of the day, is this axis a fallout of the American tariff war? Is this axis, so-called axis that is emerging, is this the fallout of the tariff war launched by the United States and its maverick President Donald Trump? Or is it really an emergence of the Asian and Eurasian powers? Now we see the three top leaders of the non-Western leaders, as I have said in my introduction, that bonhomie, that camaraderie that was seen, at least visible, because today the media is in the habit of discussing body language. I don't do that, of course, but we can't help it because most of the media is discussing body language and optics. Now, as a military man, how do you look at all of this?
Thank you, Wasbir. To begin with, there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent national interests. As regards the tariff is concerned, it will have acted as a catalyst. But not for that reason, because from Kazan itself, slowly and steadily, improving relations with China had commenced. China is our neighbor, and there's nothing that we can do about it. China has not lived up to its own treaties that they have signed, and therefore China has to now prove itself that it is a trusted partner. Trust but verify. Because if China has what it is, even despite the 93 agreements, 96 peace and tranquility agreements, we've seen what China has done. But unfortunately, Chinese behavior since 2013, ever since Xi Jinping has taken, is a suspect. And what culminated was in Galwan. And obviously, after Galwan, things have been on a cold thing. But yes, to a certain extent, the disengagement, a bit of easing of tensions along the LAC, that's the bottom line. If the things are peaceful along the line of active control, then probably things can be taken forward. And however, even at the LAC, it would be so much better for China if it wants the trust of India, it wants to do want to move along with India, is to go status quo ante April 2020. If China can do that, well, this is the moment for China. China is, of course, the biggest manufacturing hub and therefore is looking for a market. We obviously have Chinese virtually have $100 billion trade surplus that they have with them. So there is very little. And even otherwise also, with Russia, more important is Russia. Russia is a stabilizing factor. With Russia, we've had, a very, very old relationship. Russia and India have proved themselves to be good friends. Russia has all along been a very, I would say, a reliable defense partner of India. And in that context, I think Russia would be more like a balancing factor even amongst these three countries, between Russia, China, and India.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me turn to Group Captain Mohanto Panging. Group Captain Panging, now look at the Tianjin Declaration. The SCO declaration. There were SCO summits earlier in whether it was in Dushanbe, whether it was in Samarkand, whether it was in Moscow earlier. There was condemnation of terrorism, but this was perhaps the strongest condemnation of terrorism from the Xi Jinping-led SCO, because it has all the 10 member states of the SCO has condemned terrorism in all its manifestations this time, and they have specifically mentioned the incident in Pahalgam. Now the Prime Minister Modi made a strong case, and that led to the Tianjin Declaration condemning terrorism perhaps in the strongest possible terms as far as the SCO is concerned. Now, how do you look at it, Group Captain Panging?
Thank you so much. I feel it is a major diplomatic victory for India that Pahalgam has been mentioned in the SCO declaration. And like you said, the terrorism has been a special focus for this Tianjin summit that has taken place. But I want to put forward certain things. See, as far as China and US are concerned, one is the fox and the other is the hyena. So the hyena wants to gobble up everything that is against them. You see, historically also, like mentioned by General Kulkarni sir, that US has always been supporting Pakistan. You look at 65 war, you look at 71 war, all their weapon platforms and their fighter aircraft, all of them are US supplied. And presently also, if you can see, it is US supplied. And the sudden outburst by Trump against India of raising tariff and why in India, there are a lot of speculations. But there is a speculation that it may be triggered but by our hitting the Kirana Hills. We have touched enough there because I believe many people say that the US doesn't trust the Pakistanis with their nuclear weapons. And that is how the security is looked after by the US. So when you hit Kirana Hills, and that is the time maybe it is triggered. And how come the sudden change by Trump against India imposing this sudden kind of tariffs? Another thing I want to point out is that our dependency on the Tejas. The Tejas fighter aircraft has recently replaced the MiG-21. The MiG-21 has been decommissioned. And we have ordered some 85 plus Tejas. Now the Tejas engine is a G104 engine made by the US. And even if you want to take a hard step towards the US, this entire project will be jeopardized in case we take. So the government has acted very maturely. They have not given any strong statement or very strong steps also against them. They've taken it very maturely and wisely. For me, sitting in Arunachal Pradesh, right at the border next to China, so happening, I always used to say that US is sitting very far. It's a hyena trying to gobble up everything. But sitting here next to him, it's a fox. So we need to build our infrastructure. We need to build our defense assets and all equipment. Until the time, we should practice some Chanakya Niti and maybe for some time become friends of the fox.
Okay. Chanakya Niti and for some time become friends of the hawks. That's how Montapanging is saying from right along the border with China. Ambassador Bhatia, is it only about trade and business? As the group captain said that, we have so much at stake, we are taking technology from the United States. But do you think that time has come for the Asian and Eurasian leaders, Russia, India, China, to, as far as India, China is concerned, to remove, to keep some of their problems into the back burner, as Xi Jinping himself said that we may have differences, but we should not allow it to escalate to disputes. Now we have the border dispute. Do you think we can move along? And do you see it as a real alternative to the US global leadership, this coming together or the renewed consolidation of the Russia, India, China thing? Because both of them, India and Russia and China, have always been friends.
Let me be very clear, Wasbir, that it is very easy for media and some scholars to keep talking about a new global order which one or two or three countries can bring about, but it is not practical. We all know that for a new global order to be brought, we need the consensus of all the major players. This will include the US and China, Russia and Europe, India and Japan and others. So just two or three countries cannot bring a new global order. That idea should be given up. My second point, again answering your question, is that scholars and media people are very happy bringing in this question of trust in the context of India-China relationship. But diplomats are a little bit more, as you said, cautious and careful. The question of trust does not arise. One ambassador talks to the other ambassador and then that fellow reciprocates. They have an agreement and then it is always trust and verify. So next day we have to sit down and check whether the other guy has delivered on what he said he would. If not, there's no question of trust. So I think we have learned that lesson from the long history of India-China relations. No need to trust, simply listen, agree, and then verify. So in that context, now my third point, I would like to say very clearly that instead of reading the famous columnists, we should listen to the man who was in the room when Xi Jinping met Prime Minister Modi. And in this day and age of open diplomacy, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri has gone on record when he briefed the media soon after the meeting. And you know how our diplomats do it very carefully. He listed out what Xi Jinping said, he listed out what Mr. Modi said, and then he listed out 4 points where both leaders agreed. And of those 4 points, the most important point was that if we are thinking of the Asian century, a phrase which almost had died after the prime ministership of Dr. Manmohan Singh, Vikram Misri said, if we are thinking of Asian century, this is only possible with cordial relations between Beijing and Delhi. And it's only then a truly multipolar world with a multipolar Asia at its heart can be realized. These are not my words. This is the statement of the serving foreign secretary. So
Right.
I would urge everyone to read very carefully what is going on. It is an important meeting, but it is not so important that you can start talking about a 3-power axis yet.
Okay, Dr. Shrikant Kondapalli, suppose we don't talk about a 3-power axis, let's talk about India-China. Now, what the ambassador said, Xi Jinping said, it is the right choice for both countries to be friends who have good neighborly and amicable ties, partners who enable each other's success, and to have the dragon and the elephant come together. Now, my question is, for the dragon and the elephant to come together and tango, Dr. Shrikant Kondapalli, what are some of the requisites? Now China is building that big dam. Mohanto Panging is sitting there. He is from Pasighat. And the big dam is threatening to sort of overwhelm the lower riparians in case of a necessity. China is seen to be weaponizing water. They have already weaponized water. And this big dam coming up at a world's biggest infrastructure project, coming up at a cost of $170 billion, Dr. Shrikant Kondapalli, how do we trust? You know, that is the big issue. And if we don't trust, are we to mean that we have to live like this as sort of neighbors who don't trust each other for all times to come?
Well, after the Galwan incident in June 2020, the first time we have had a discussion was in Kazan last year, October 23rd. And then there were a series of meetings. First was by Foreign Secretary Misri, and then by National Security Advisor Mr. Ajit Doval in December of that year. And then Raksha Mantri's visit this June, and then External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar's visit in July. Now, if you carefully look at the context of these and then the responses of China, we see that there is a balancing act that China did in all these visits. For example, after Vikram Misri's visit, the Chinese announced 2 new counties to be established in Aksai Chin. A county would mean that there will be administrative mechanisms. Then later on, public security organs, and then later on the PLA will all be mobilized, and they stabilize from a Chinese perspective of the Aksai Chin region. Now, after the visit of Dr. Jaishankar, Premier Li Qiang went to Tibet and inaugurated the $167 billion worth dam, which is supposed to generate around 60 gigawatts of electricity. Now, there were no, while India suggested that there should be transparency, but we have not heard anything from China about the information related to the dam construction. So what I was trying to suggest is that every visit in the last 9 months resulted in a kind of balancing act by China. And this suggests that we have to now live with this balancing. And we also saw that during the Operation Sindoor. It is too early to expect spectacular progress in the bilateral relations. We have to be cautious on what is going to happen.
Yeah. Now, let me come to General Kulkarni. General Kulkarni, yes, I agree with the ambassador that we should not jump into conclusion that there is already an axis emerging, RIC. This is the media acronym now, RIC. That is the catchword. Now the point is now. Okay, let's not talk into an axis. But if you look at the global media. There were leaders from 20 countries at this SCO summit in Tianjin. There were other heads of several international organizations. And this is the biggest gathering as far as the SCO is concerned, as far as that it's a 10-member grouping, as we all know. But there were 20 leaders besides heads of various international organizations and agencies. But among all of them, the spotlight was on this troika of Modi, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. At least, all the images were of this troika.
Definitely, Wasbir. There's no denying the fact. There's a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of messaging that is happening. But I really don't know how much in the global time the Chinese have put it in a fashion that we are looking at it. There are times when you will have Pakistan portrayed differently, there are Chinese portraying it differently, we would look at it a little differently, all of it. But definitely what was being seen on television, there seems to be a kind of a good understanding. And I would give a lot of credit to Mr. Putin, because Mr. Putin seems to be the binding factor. And everybody, both India and China, have stood with Russia in the hours of crisis. And that is what has irked the United States. And the United States unable to hit back at China because so much dependency is there on China, the United States at this point of time. But it seems to be taking out its anger on India to be able to say that it is India which is sustaining the war of Russia. Well, right now, probably the Americans do understand that it isn't the way. There are also, differing opinions within the United States as to what it should be. But leaving that aside, but I personally would say that the more reliability or more responsibility of wanting to gain India's trust lies in China. Because it is China which has betrayed. It is China which has to prove that it really means and it has to walk the talk. If China does not walk the talk, and if China continues to do what it is doing, nibbling here, pinching there, doing all kinds of things, you would still find them coming at certain posts or start fighting with one another. That shows that it wouldn't be. But as what rightly said the Prime Minister saying, right from the time Xi Jinping has taken over, the indicators are very clear that he always thought he could pressurize India. Probably the Americans also thought that they could pressurize India. But India hasn't yet fallen to the pressure in greatness of our own ability to able to slowly and steadily match the comprehensive national power of China. Slowly and steadily. It is very, very difficult, obviously, to be doing it immediately. But there's the very fact that India has the ability, India has the capability, India is working. You had the Sudarshan Chakra being said, you had the aircraft, Generation 5 engines to be made in India, indicators that there is something working. We have a decade been given for all of this. So there is a lot that we really need to do to match up, but there is a lot in us that we can stand our ground rather than give in to anyone's pressure.
Right. Yeah. I will go for a very quick break, but before then, very quickly, Group Captain Mohanto Panging. Group Captain Panging, in Chinese soil, in the presence of the Pakistani Prime Minister sitting there, our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, made that forceful reference to the terrorist acts on Indian soil. That is on 22nd of April, the Pahalgam incident, where Pakistani terrorists using perhaps Chinese weaponry and backup and intelligence backup killed 26 civilians. How do you look at it? And the focus on Prime Minister Modi, do you think it also reflects on India's growing stature in the international community?
I told earlier also, it's a great diplomatic victory to mention Pahalgaon in the Tianjin Declaration of the SCO. But what I want to bring out very ironically, we captured one of their PL-15E. If you remember that PL-15E during Op Sindoor almost fell intact.
Yes.
And it was one of their most advanced air-to-air beyond visual range missile that was captured live. And very interesting to know that what we had done about it till now, what kind of reverse engineering and what kind of research went into seeing the technology. So most of the weapons used during those operations all by Pakistanis are either made in US or made in China. So that is the center everywhere. So that is why I said one is the fox and the other is the hyena.
Okay.
You look at our nearby places, Myanmar, also the arms are similar. You go to Bangladesh, arms are similar. And go to the other countries also nearby, also in Sri Lanka also.
Absolutely.
Similar kind of. And US, I need to point out one more thing, is that US is also playing a lot of games in Myanmar. And the Myanmar leader was also sitting there in Tianjin, if you remember, and almost half the country, Myanmar, is out of the control of the government there. And there also America is playing a lot of role, and some of the repercussions are being felt in Arunachal. What is happening is Myanmar.
We'll talk about that, Group Captain. I'll go for a short break. Then I'll come to Ambassador Bhatia and Dr. Shrikant Kandapalli to talk about China's activities in the neighborhood. Yes, Group Captain said the Myanmarese leader, the military chief and acting president, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, was also present. He also had a bilateral with Prime Minister Modi. I'll go for a short break. Don't go away. I'll be right back. All right, Ambassador Bhatia, after the optics that emerged out of Tianjin, apart from real developments, now do you feel that the United States, or for that matter, President Trump, is going to take a re-look at some of his policies? For example, there is 50% tariff on India. India doesn't seem to be putting up a brave front, 25% of which is for buying oil from Russia, and not imposing tariffs to that extent on China. So do you think after all this, do you think America is going to revise some of what it has done? Do you at least take a re-look?
That is a tough one, an invitation to try to decipher what Washington may do. We did notice that as these pictures started streaming in, there was a message on X from the State Department with a quotation from the Secretary of State lauding India-US relationship and saying that this is a very important relationship. It has a people-to-people dimension, and that we intend to continue strengthening it and the rest of it. So that showed clearly that there are voices in Washington which recognize very much the importance and relevance of India-US relationship. But on the other hand, with regard to the tariff question and all these tirades coming in from the top advisors, there is no end in sight yet. So strictly speaking, which way precisely it would go, we can speculate, but we would not know in a very informed manner. My own talisman, Wasbir, to understand what will happen is this. Let us wait to await confirmation from President Trump whether he would attend the Quad summit that India plans to host. The three members are agreed about the Quad, and they all are set to come. Japanese Prime Minister, Australian Prime Minister, and of course, Indian Prime Minister is the host. And this is supposed to take place in the last few months of this year. We already started September. These visits require a long time to prepare properly. So if the Quad summit is confirmed, then you can be hopeful that there would be an attempt by Washington and Delhi to place the relationship on good footing. If not, then if I may just add and complete my story, we can watch another milestone, which is whether the RIC ministerial, Russia, India, China ministerial may be revived. Because if Quad were not to take place and RIC ministerial were to take place, then the wisdom of the topic of this program that you have given, that could assert itself much more than it is asserting today. That is my message.
Okay. Now, there are already rumors floating around that President Trump is not attending the Quad. There are also rumors, I'm using the word rumor, also rumors that that Prime Minister Modi had not taken calls from US President on a couple of occasions in recent weeks or recent days. So that is in the realm of speculation. But yes, as you said, Ambassador, we'll have to wait and watch whether President Trump comes for the Quad summit or Quad meet, or whether an RIC ministerial meeting takes place in the meantime. Dr. Srikant Kondapalli, the same question to you. What is your sense after what we saw in Tianjin? The same question I'm asking you because I want a different perspective, or if at all you have a different perspective. How do you look at it? Is the United States going to revise or take a relook at what it has done to India, tariffs, and its policy towards Asia?
It looks like the Trump administration is going to follow what they have done in the last few days. Because on August 27th, the tariffs have been implemented on India. And we have also seen the President Trump's Truth Social becoming more animated in terms of the comments on India, and also his advisors, the latest being Peter Navarro and others. So this means that we are going for a prolonged period of tension between US and India. This looks like to be a very likely scenario in the near future. And for China, they have given a reprieve of 90 days. And the 145% tariffs have been reduced to about roughly 36. But this is the legacy tariffs, which means it came from the Trump first administration, Biden administration, and so on. And after the three meetings in Switzerland, London, and in Sweden, there is the realization that they need to make a tie-up with the Chinese in this regard on the tariffs issue because of the magnet and rare earth metals related matters. Now, in this background, whether there will be an RIC meeting or whether a Quad meeting, we do not know. But RIC meeting began with Russian Premier Primakov mentioning this in 1998. And the three countries had summit level meetings at the Prime Minister President level, but more frequently at the foreign ministerial level. Yeah. So for some reason, this has been discontinued, partly because RIC branched out into BRICS and SEO. When you look at the themes of the RIC, it appeared that the BRICS has taken over all the RIC agenda. Multipolarity, energy security, regional security issues, counterterrorism, all these are part of the RIC before. And these are now being appropriated by the BRICS and the SEO. So the relevance for the RIC decreased a little bit. And also we have seen the China-US relations improved, and they did not see much traction for the RIC. And we now have also Putin-Trump meeting in Alaska. We do not know what transpired, but these things suggest that the RIC may take some beating.
Okay.
Because one individual country may have a different perspective now or equations with the United States.
Yeah.
Definitely there is the G2 that is emerging between US and China. So they may find it very awkward to conduct an RIC meeting at a time when they are in a huddle with the US on the tariffs issue.
Okay, so that is a very interesting perspective there. Let me turn once again to General Kulkarni. General, the world knows India's buying power, India's purchasing power. Now, can the United States actually hold on to its 50% tariff, some kind of a, idea that President Trump wants to teach India a lesson for buying oil from Russia, so on and so forth. Now, can the United States ignore India as a purchaser of military hardware? Because we have now said that we have now seen that they have put on hold the purchase of the fighter jets and so on. So, will the United States be able to hold on? Because at the end of the day, the trade talks have not really been called off. On and off, we see different kind of statements emerging, appearing to be a sobering effect by certain people in the Trump administration or outside in the American sphere. How do you look at it, General?
Wasbir, capacity building takes time. Intentions change overnight. And once bitten, twice shy, America seems to feel that the way they went about, sort of establishing relationship with China, and in turn they thought that China would toe their line, and China didn't toe their line, and started showing eyes, and has started in a multilateralism, has almost now becoming, the unilateralism is almost on its death end. In that context, they realized that if India also gets stronger, because economically, somehow or the other, they would want to pull India down, and therefore, if India was to go economically stronger, it has to be militarily stronger. If without military strength, economic strength, it's not possible. And you need economic strength to have military strength. And obviously, you need a lot of technology. That niche technology comes from countries like America or Europe. America there has a lot of leverage. You saw the jet engines for 2 years, the G engines haven't come at all. Whatever they might say, Ukraine, this, that, or other, and the factory has to be restarted or whatever that be so. But for 2 years, the aircraft engines haven't come. And now that the aircraft engines might come, again, there might be some kind of a problem. So America will also continue to put pressure on India, wanting to toe line, because somehow or the other, much that Putin has acknowledged that there are lots that has happened with America in the recent district in Alaska, but notwithstanding that, Putin wants to do what he wants to do, and Zelensky has played a major role in there, because Zelensky seems to be throwing the towel now in the ring, because the very fact that he approached India to put in a good word for them to Russia, hoping that India and Russia are such good friends, and therefore if Zelensky could well be given a safe exit, which doesn't seem to work, because the very fact that the Americans are not coming very strongly on Russia is indicated that there is a problem. And therefore, Russia is not going to leave. And Zelensky now seems to be in the back foot. And now, probably in a week or 10 days, things will be more clearer. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let me take a final round before I wind up this extremely engaging discussion. Group Captain Mohanto Panging. Now, China's role in the neighborhood, we all know its grip on Myanmar, what it is doing in Bangladesh, what it's doing in Sri Lanka, so on and so forth. Now, you see, as you yourself mentioned, that the Myanmar general was in the SCO summit, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing. He's the military chief and the acting president. Now, it's a war-torn country. The Chinese are trying to give India, of course, as I said in the last debate also, India is going on with its counter-hedging strategy, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, the Chinese actions in the neighborhood, do you think do you expect Chinese to really put on hold some of its activities and assistance in India's neighborhood? What sense do you get?
It's a very relevant question. Actually, sitting in Arunachal Pradesh for me, like from More, you can go to Tamu. That means in India, you can easily go to Tamu in Myanmar and go shopping and come back without a visa. So we should also start some cultural exchanges with the Chinese. We should be able to go to Medoc, and they should be able to come to Tuting, and we should be able to hold that to us. And there is one more very strategic angle. Distinguished panelists are here. They may pick up this thread. The thread is that Myanmar, that half, we share the demographic population along the border in Myanmar. That means Nagas, Kukis, then others also from Arunachal Pradesh also, many tribes are there. So India should also play its role there. What you talked earlier of Akhand Bharat, someday we should think about it that because we share the border and there is chaos going on there, there's a civil war happening there, and we share the population, we share the language, we share the ethnicity with half the population of what you call Kachin. Kachin are called Singphos in Arunachal. So we revive this. And through your esteemed channel, I want to bring out two more corrections. See, China has already made 2 dams on the Sangpo at Jangmu and slightly ahead of that.
Yeah.
So this will be the 3rd dam they are going to construct. That is one third. Second, there is they've already constructed a huge tunnel, 5-kilometer long tunnel under the Namcha Barwa, which just joins Medoc from the other side. Otherwise, it's a very difficult terrain to build. And BRICS, President Trump has already singled out BRICS. And he told them that I'm going to target BRICS. So BRICS is an organization, and Quad, the comparison that took place, see, along with India, 50% tariff has been applied on Brazil, another member of BRICS. And China, like you say, 36%, and Russia, of course, is 100% plus as of now. And finally, I want to put forward a point way forward for us. What do you think we should do? Is what Prime Minister Modi is saying, Atmanirbharta and vocal for local. That is the only solution. We have to start making our own weapons. We have to start making our own platforms. And to me, there are many private players, very private companies who are ready to do. The government has to redraw its policy and start allowing them to start making our weapons and weapon platforms.
Absolutely.
I don't know, with these distinguished panelists here, this approach also needs to be taken up. That is the only way of countering the fox and the hyena.
Ambassador, same question to you. China's role in the neighborhood. Do you think, like I was asking, whether the Troika's optics or whatever, or the reality is going to force the United States to take a relook? Do you think Beijing is going to take a relook or even put its activities on hold to some extent to at least demonstrate a semblance of trust under the new whatever we have seen in Tianjin?
We have to be realistic, Wasbir. I think in the short term, we should not expect China to be particularly cooperative with us as far as South Asia is concerned. They have their own national interests and their policies, and they seem to clash with ours. We would like to have complete non-interference of China in South Asia. That is no longer possible. They have penetrated so deeply into various neighbors of ours. We will have to put up with it. But I would like to point out that the positive turn in Tianjin, why and how it happened. In my judgment, the arrangement was constructed when Foreign Minister Wang Yi came to Delhi. And what was the arrangement? The arrangement was that India will show some resilience on the border and boundary questions. And in return, China would show greater sensitivity to our problems with regard to cross-border terrorism. And this is exactly what was reflected in the Xi Jinping-Modi meeting and finally in the SCO declaration. So this shows that under the compulsions of geopolitics and in order to try something new, the leadership in 2 countries can be innovative. So let us keep some hope, but not too many hopes. And in the end, let me just take 30 seconds to thank Professor Srikant to remind us about the long background of RIC, but I would like to update him to say that in recent weeks, Russia has indeed renewed its interest in holding the RIC meeting, and that China has already supported Moscow. So please remember that New Delhi is not without cards in its hands in terms of dealing with the great powers today.
All right, Professor Srikant, would you like to say something what Ambassador said? Or otherwise, my question to you is, Xi Jinping said that we should have a situation so that the dragon and the elephant come together. That's the word that I have the transcript with me. That's what he said during the bilateral with Prime Minister Modi, that it is the right choice for both countries to be friends who have good neighborly and amicable ties, partners who enable each other's success, and to have the dragon and the elephant come together.
That's quite possible as long as a few things are met. For example, if India and China's concern today is the looming tariff wars with the Trump administration. So in the light of that, there is an economic angle, growth rates, etc. So in the light of this, if there is a tango in terms of the FDI, in terms of trade-related sensitivities of India, in terms of the balance of payments position, market economy, and the border stability and Indian Ocean, South Asia, if these are taken care of, then possibly both can have a tango. But these are very intractable issues. On the border stability, it is the PLA which calls the shots in China. And we need to factor in the PLA activism here. As you know, the Xi Jinping's administration has dismissed several PLA high-level officers, including He Wei-tung, who served in Western Theater Command in Chengdu before, and he was removed for some charges, possibly corruption. There are also others who are removed from the Western Theater Command, but also generally from the PLA.
Yeah.
So there is a likelihood of the PLA, responding. So that needs to be factored in. Second is the trade issue. Last year, we had a trade deficit of nearly $99 billion. Total Chinese exports and a trade imbalance of nearly $88 billion. So cumulatively, the trade imbalance or in favor of China is about $1.4 trillion so far in the last 15 years. So is China willing to reduce the trade deficit, as we have been mentioning for the past 15 years?
Yeah.
Then we can tango. The other is if the Chinese invest in India. Xi Jinping, during his visit to Delhi in September 2014, promised $20 billion. But so far, in the last 15 to 20 years, the total Chinese investment in India is $8 billion. For an economy of $19 trillion, they have invested $8 billion in India, which is growing at 7.4% growth rate this first quarter. So in other words, China is reluctant to invest in India, and so this will affect the tango as well. And Indian exports to China are also not allowed. And hence, this will also affect the tango.
Absolutely.
There are other issues.
Absolutely, Professor. Absolutely, Professor. We'll have to wait and watch whether the dragon and the elephant actually tangos or have a gig together. But if the elephant and the dragon does decide to tango, the question is, can the bear be far behind? If Beijing and New Delhi decides to have a gig or a tango, can Moscow be far behind? We'll leave it at that. I thank my distinguished panelists, Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia, Lieutenant General Kulkarni, Group Captain Mohanto Panging, and Professor Srikant Kodopalli. Thank you very much for being on the program, and the viewers for watching the show. Good night and goodbye.